Hey guys, it's your host Elex, and I just want to say thank you for tuning in to another episode of Mental Mixology. All right, so if you have tuned in to any past episodes of Mental Mixology, you are well aware that I am one of the many folks, maybe like you yourself listening, that my mind never stops racing. And it has been happening for a while. It has led me to dealing with a lot of anxiety attacks and not being able to sleep very well through the night. And I am to the point where I will try anything and everything to be able to silence the noise. And I stumbled upon an amazing resource back in February when Mental Mixology did our Self Care Saturday Women's Health Expo. And the funny thing about this resource is it was genuinely in my backyard and I didn't even know it was there, which was the craziest thing. So, Divine Interruptions is actually in the town I live in Odessa, Missouri. And we have Christina here, who is the owner of KC Divine Interruptions. And she basically helped me with maintaining a quiet, silent mind. I have gone to see her twice. And the first session I saw her, I started noticing little things with just being able to sleep through the night. And even with the second session, I was going on a walk with my dog, like I do after I work out. And normally my walks can be a little challenging because it's just like constant commotion, even if it's silent around me. And I kid you not, I'm walking my dog and just kind of looking around. I'm like, my gosh, like my brain is silent. Like there is nothing going on right now. It was one of the most peaceful walks I've had with Stevie. And yeah, it's something so simple that you go see her for, or it seems so simple. But we're going to dive into what Christina has to offer, what she's bringing to just kind of the mental health and wellness community. And maybe this might be a resource that could help you out a lot. So, Christina, thank you so much for coming on to Mental Mixology. How are you doing today?
Oh, it's my pleasure. That makes my heart so happy to hear that you had such a great experience. I'm glad to know that it
Thank
was effective for
you.
you?
Yes, and it was really cool because I'd known Christina from kind of collaborating for this event back in February. But when I first went to go see Christina just on my own wellness journey, she is so inviting and opening, trying to help find solutions for you. And it's not just, oh, come in, get the service done and leave. Like she is talking to you, getting to know you, trying to see what you're dealing with the day to day to be able to connect all of these dots. So, Christina, I was kind of skeptical when I first went to go see you, but I will say I left a believer seeing how well it works. But for anybody listening that's never heard of Divine Interruptions, what exactly did you do to my brain when I went to come see you?
Yes. Well, first off, I, much like you, started out a skeptic when a dear friend of mine told me about the machine and how I saw the revolutionary results that she had. And the machine itself is just an EEG machine. Okay. It's reading your brain waves and it sees where we're stuck in those patterns, right? So we typically default to the route we know best. You ever made a drive home and you realize, like, I just drove the whole way home and I have absolutely no idea how I got here, right? We all kind of
Yes.
default to
Yeah.
what we're used to, right? And so many of us are stuck in fight or flight. And it's something that we're not, like, no one's walking around thinking like, I'm in high alert. My shoulders are tight. I'm walking around completely anxious. That's not how we're thinking. We're just living life, doing what we do. We're in a busy society. Everybody's tense. When you ask anybody, how are you doing? I'm fine. Fine is not fine. And I think we're finally getting to a place, thanks to people like you who are bringing awareness to mental health, to say, hey, there's stuff going on and we're all going through it. And so what the machine did to your brain is it's taking and reading the brain waves that you have and gently sending little signals to say, hey, you don't have to be in that stuck pattern. God made us with neuroplasticity. So our bodies are designed to adapt and to respond to all of the things that we're being thrown at. And so as those things are being thrown at us, we adapt and respond in an appropriate way. Well, sometimes those grooves that we've created don't serve us anymore. So this is just sending gentle frequencies to your brain to say, hey, that's not the best pattern for you. So that loop where you're used to walking your dog and have your mind racing, and you notice
Mhm.
like, wait a minute, even if it's not a mindless silence, like you're numb, it's like a clarity, I would assume. Is that it?
Yes,
Yeah.
spot on. Spot
Yeah.
on.
There's
Yes.
a clarity that comes from that. And it's literally disentraining your brain through neurofeedback, neuroregulation.
And this is so cool. And I think the coolest part about this is you haven't had divine interruptions forever. You actually were a labor and delivery nurse before this. So,
Yes.
yeah, what got you from, changing your career from what you were doing for I think you said 18 years.
18 years.
How did
Yes.
you change career paths into doing this, or how did you even stumble upon this?
Yes. Well, to be honest, I am still a labor and delivery nurse. I work still part time and 2 days a week. I'm delivering babies. I also am trained in the NICU.
So
So
cool.
just this week, I delivered a mama with a set of twins and got to be a part
Oh my
of her
gosh.
delivery story. And I love what I do. When I was a little girl and mom asked me, like, what do you, I wrote her a report on how I wanted to grow up and be a wife and a mom and a labor and delivery nurse. And I asked the Lord, like, if I make it to heaven, like, I want to take care of all the babies that beat their mamas there. And that's just always been something that I've loved. And so I was definitely not looking for anything and came across the machine and the whole microcurrent neurofeedback, neuroregulation through one of my best friends. I went out to visit her in Colorado, and she's just always just like what you and I would consider like a high intensity person. She's very driven. She's an incredible like homeschooling mama, helps her husband run a business. It's just always go, go, go. And we visit every year. And this year there was something different about her countenance. There was something that, I mean, we talk on the regular and we're going through the Bible recap together, but like I
Yeah.
saw a difference in her and was like, what are you doing? And
Yeah.
she believed in it so much, she had purchased a machine, and her husband both experienced long COVID, and it was a bad brain fog, just really, it knocked them down. And their pastor had said something about experiencing microcurrent neurotherapy and said it's something that he really thought that they should check out. And when she did, she saw it made such a huge difference in her clarity, in her sleep, and her anxiety. And it kind of opened up this whole new season for her of being free to really trust in God and to trust that those mechanisms that she created as a little girl that needed, she made those neural pathways when she needed to in order to make it through the situation she was in. They no longer serve her. And were not something that were going to be beneficial to her anymore. And so seeing that and knowing that, and on the drive home, my husband was saying the same thing. Gosh, wow, the difference in countenance and just the peace that seems to be over her was just incredible. And you have to be a nurse or a medical professional in order to run the machine. And so my husband was like, just threw it out there, like, you should open a clinic. And I was like, I am not a clinic nurse. And the Lord stopped me in my tracks and said, do not say that you are or are not something that I haven't said. I am who you say I am. And I was like, oh God, you're right, Lord. Like, I am who you say I am. I'm not who I say I am. And the only thing neuro that I had done in my years as labor and delivery nurse or really understood about it was, we have babies that sometimes are born addicted to drugs, whatever, something that mom was on during the pregnancy. So their brains are wired to need, whether it's nicotine or meth, whatever it is. And we'll have some of these kiddos for months as we're trying to titrate down and try to get their brains. And I find myself just going in the nursery, loving on these little ones and just praying like, God, you did not create their body to crave, to want, to need this substance. Put it back. Put it back to the way the creator made it. And that has been my prayer for 18 years over these little ones. So it's interesting because my background is I went the long route in college and ended up getting 4 bachelors.
Oh my
Expensive, but
gosh.
I know it
Amazing.
wasn't. Well, I got a degree in psychology, a degree in biology, a degree in biblical studies, and then came back and went nursing. So it's ironic that now in my 40s, all of a sudden God's like, hey, those 4 degrees that you have, like, I want to use those. I want to use those together and I want to bring it all to fruition in this one capacity. So that's kind of a long answer, but that's how I came to experience it.
That's really cool. And so before I move on to the next question, I do want to kind of recap this. And how you're talking about with labor and delivery, I think that was a cool way to understand what the divine interruptions, this machine does. Because what was the machine called again?
It's called ISIS, but just freaking not kidding you, this week they just rebranded and they're calling it Mind Oasis.
Interesting. Okay. So basically, what this machine is doing is creating or restoring old neural pathways that you have. And I mean, can it remove like different ones, or is it just opening up these new neural pathways for you?
It's sending that gentle nudge. So we've got those ingrained neural pathways that we have that it's kind of like that drive home. We've done it every time. So it's
Yeah.
a deep groove. If you envision like tires in a rut, okay? So it takes and it just gives gentle signals to say, move an inch to the right. And it's not necessarily an inch to the right, but it's, just like giving that
Mhm.
gentle impulse
Yep.
to say, you don't have to be in this rut. So it reminds your brain that it can be neuroplastic. Does that make sense?
Amazing. Okay. Yes, it does. I just wanted to kind of hit on that a little bit more before we kept going, just so people kind of
I know.
understand what we're working with. When you talked about too, when you went to go see your friend, you noticed just by her aura that there was a difference there. Now,
Yes.
when folks come to see you, like for when I came to see you, could you see the mental fatigue on me, or does your machine kind of give you the synopsis of what's going on or showing you these indicators?
Yeah, no, I think there's a level of discernment that comes when I'm in a labor room and taking care of a patient. I'm not just taking care of the patient. I'm watching the whole family, Her mama is tense and watching and that's her baby, And so you're taking
Yeah.
in the needs, the emotions and reading the room on everyone. And so I'm bringing that into this practice as well. So when people come in, do I notice the subtleties of the anxious shoulders that I don't really want to say that the machine is not reading your mail. Okay. It's not telling me all of your deepest thoughts. It's not putting it all out there. What it does is, as I showed you while we were going through, like this top line, it's reading your brain pathway. It sees where you're at, and it's going to send that gentle signal to get you closer to this. It's reading the musculature in your face. It's reading that like how tense are those muscles. And it's also reading, are you in high beta or theta or alpha? Like what brain waves are more prominent and how can we help them to fall into alignment? So I'm not seeing anything that you're not divulging already and sharing as a part of your past or history. There's absolutely no judgment here. So that is not something that anyone needs to worry about. That is simply the machine is doing what it does. And I just bring the compassion.
I think it's amazing because it is something new. It's a new technology for a lot of people. You help the patient understand what's going on, what everything is. It is really cool because you do understand it a lot more once you leave. So, Divine Interruptions is a really cool name. How did you come up with the name for it?
Well, when my husband and I were on that drive back through Colorado, Kansas is really long, and when we were researching and looking up ISIS to see like what all can it help with. There's so many things. There's like 35 different things. And it was like every diagnosis that we saw that it could help with, it was like, oh my gosh, I struggle with migraines, anxiety and depression. I've got a friend who has that, my mom with fibromyalgia, your mom with her migraines. It was like there was a loved one attached to every single one of the diagnoses that it could help with. And it was like, this is crazy. If we could bring this healing, how much more freedom would people have in their everyday lives? And so as I was, I kind of have a tendency to, I don't want to say challenge God, but be like, okay, unless, close the door if it's not supposed to, I'm just going to keep pushing forward. And so all of the things that I thought like, this will never happen, happens. The chiropractor that I'm inside of an incredible space here at Hometown Collaborative. And I asked my chiropractor friend, have you ever heard of this? And she's like, yes, but I don't know anyone who's doing it. I've heard that it's revolutionary and it's all these things. The thing is, the technology's been there for 20 years. It's just not been tangible.
Wow.
So isn't that crazy?
Interesting. Yeah,
So when I
seriously.
started thinking about what it is, like the mechanism of action, what is it that the machine is doing and what God did in my life, it's a parallel. Simon Peter and Andrew thought that they were fishermen, and Jesus came up and said like, hey, come with me, be fishers of men. And it was a divine interruption in their life, but it was the best choice ever you know? And
Amazing.
so
Yeah.
that's the same thing. It's got that dual purpose of I thought I was a labor nurse. I thought this was my path and this is what I was going to do all of my days. And God's like, are you open? Do you have a yes in your heart towards what I have for you? So, yes.
That's awesome. So was that the moment that you realized, like, I have to follow this, like, see this through, was when you saw how much it could help people you love, people around you, and even past that, your community, just have a better, more sustainable wellness in their everyday life? Is that what made you do the jump?
Yeah. Well, as I said, I was definitely praying about it and was
Yeah.
asking, like, okay, Lord, am I supposed to do this? And all the doors that needed to open had opened. And I actually had a vision that brought me so much clarity. And in the vision, like, I could tell that God was kind of behind me on the throne. And there was like I through my scenery, I could see like there was no one to the left. And there was just a line of people that like extended off into infinity on the right side. And I felt like he said, these are the people that will be affected if you say no. And it was no one. Okay, no harm, no foul. But these are the people that will be affected if you say yes to this. And it was like generations. And I thought, like, how? Even if I did clinic 24/7, like I couldn't affect that many people. But the incredible thing about this technology and something that really spoke to my heart as someone who has a family member that just through life circumstances, injured back, turned to medication. Medication became dependent, and that dependency costs a lot. And this is something that helps people break free from addictions, from dependencies, and helps with pain. So you're telling me that the line that I was seeing our generation. So if I've got a mama who's addicted to something, whether it's, prescription pain medicine or alcohol, they come in, receive the treatments. What we're doing is shifting it to say like, okay, now that my nervous system is at rest, I don't need to reach for that caffeine or that nicotine or that drug to fill the hole and make it right. I'm at peace and at rest without it. And so seeing that, I was like, my goodness, like what an incredible gift to be able to be a part of and partner
Mhm.
with God in bringing freedom for families in that capacity.
I think it's really cool that you talk about too the addictive or craving behaviors
Mm.
that people have that can help with this, because I remember when we were talking, someone you had worked with, it basically helped them kick cravings like that as well, which I thought was really cool and just something I would have never thought about.
Yeah, it's twofold actually. Myself. Okay. I found myself saying to one of my night shift nurses, I was given a report, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm the one yawning. I worked nights for 7 years. Sweet girl is tired. And here I am yawning after having a full night's rest. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I haven't had a Dr. Pepper yet. And like the
Oh.
Lord kind of zinged me, was like, really? Is that what you want to be known as? The girl that doesn't function unless she has substance? And I was like, shoot. So it's not like I sat down and told myself, like, okay, we're now going to treat Dr. Pepper dependency. Just doing
Mhm.
treatments, I realized, okay, wait, it's been since February and I haven't had one. I don't need it. I don't crave it. I still like it, but it's not something that I need.
Yeah.
And that was something that I treated a gal. I was treating her son, and she wanted to experience it. And I was like, absolutely, let's. And we just did one session just to kind of show her what we were doing. And she reached out a couple weeks later and said, by no means am I an alcoholic, but I will have a glass of wine with dinner every
Yeah.
evening. And since a session, I've gone 23 days and haven't had one. So
Wow. That's so cool.
I don't want to say effortless, but she didn't have to think about it. It was just something that was a byproduct of it. So
That's
very cool,
awesome.
right? I know.
Yeah. So to kind of go more in depth about coming to see you, having an appointment, and getting this done. So I think when you first think of it too, because she takes, they're basically cords. Are they padded or like little pads that you
Little
put
leads,
along the head?
just little leads.
Okay. And so you put those on. It looks intimidating because, like, in all the shows and movies, it's like the things where it like shocks you or like there's vibrations. And being an athlete, the TINS machine, you're used to like
Yes.
feeling the shock. So let's be clear, you really don't feel like I didn't feel anything. It's not like you're feeling this happening as it's going
Right.
on. It's so I don't know. So do you want to like tell people kind of what is happening in that process, or what the machine is kind of sending through, or how that works?
Yeah, there's no pain. And that's one thing that,
Yep.
people are like, oh my gosh, this sounds so intimidating. She's going to rewire my brain.
Yeah.
That sounds like That sounds like a job for a neurosurgeon. Okay.
Yes.
That is not, it's not what's happening. Okay. Like you talked about the TENS unit. If you've ever had a TENS unit on and, they put it on the muscle and they send those tiny little impulses to make your muscles contract. At the very start of that, there's a little bit of like a pulsation maybe that you feel. I don't feel a whole lot. Twice in all of my times of doing treatment have I felt something. And it's just like the very beginning of a TENS unit where it's not pumped up enough to get you to. Most people feel nothing, which is why it's hard to explain. Because what do you mean? You're disentraining my brain and helping me to come off of, like, it seems too good to be true, right? Like, it seems too good to
Truly.
be true.
Yes.
It just truly does.
Huh?
And so that's the hard part is there's a lot happening. But if you think about it, our brain is the control center of everything. Okay. So if your computer's acting up and it's not working and everything, what do? Control Alt Delete, right? We repower, we reboot. It's exactly what's happening is we're giving our brain permission to reboot. And it works. So it's not something that most people feel. It's typically like and that's another cool thing too. I can have a child that's coloring and just has the leads on and it's sending those impulses and they're not even aware of what's going on.
Cool.
It is cool.
And it makes it so easy too, because it's not like a scary thing to do. And it's funny because when you mention that, you go in, you get it done, and then you leave and you're like, well, what now? And then there's two parts to this because one, you kind of see it's like when you are gardening and you plant something and then you see it start to sprout. It works in that same way, and it also works in the way where the more you go, the more you start to see those benefits as well, because the benefits were smaller the first time. I saw more the second time or just noticed a lot more. But that's the thing is everybody has to realize, and I'm talking to my sister about this with some of her health journey, but it's like you don't go to the doctor and you leave cured the first session and you're like, yes, I'm a better person. I'm all healthy. Like, it takes time. And this is just like that. And that was the cool thing, is just seeing the difference in between sessions too.
Mm-hmm.
Cause at first you're just like, I didn't feel anything. Like, let's just see. You just kind of have that wow moment after a minute once you do see it come together.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I wish how I wish that, like, what if we walked into the gym and did just one shred workout and completely, like, we all walked out with rockin' biceps and a tight buns? Like, that would be incredible. Unfortunately, it does take time and effort and consistency in doing that. So typically, we would see a client like the first session is a little bit longer because I'm going to do a full history and intake. I'm going to find out what it is that you've got going on. What are your cares and concerns? What are you here for? And we're going to measure that. It's hard. Some of the things that we talk about are, how do I quantify what my sleep, is 0 to 10? How do I quantify what my cravings are 0 to 10? But we use those numbers and your baselines based on you. And the whole thing is completely personalized. Okay. So, next visit, we typically wait 48 hours. There's no bad side effects to this. Okay. That was another thing that sold me. You turn on the TV and you see a commercial and they talks about a medicine that's going to help you. But what does it have? A minute and a half of your arm's going to fall off. You're going to die. You could this, that, and the other. Like, it is the ugliest picture ever. Right. And so that being said, I was looking at this and the only side effects are people sometimes get a little bit tired. Sometimes people say they feel wired. And sometimes people feel a little bit spacey. So as things are kind of readjusting, your brain's kind of like, okay, so tired, wired, or spacey. The only occasionally people get a mild headache, but not anything that a Tylenol doesn't take care of. So we wait 48 hours after that first session and then do a second. Typically, we would do 2 sessions a week and then kind of titrate out. It's different based on each person. Like I said, I took care of a 12-year-old boy who had migraines and it was debilitating for him. He wasn't able to participate in basketball. He was having a hard time in school and missing several days a week. His mom brought him to me. We started sessions. Kiddos are super neuroplastic, right? They don't have those hard, deep bridges that they've done for years. So we did his first session. He went 5 days without a headache. After that session, he made it 9 days. After that session, he made it 23 days. And I haven't heard from them in 4 months. I've checked in and texted her, and she said, he's not having those days where he has to lay in bed and have the cold pack on his face and lay in the dark and everybody be quiet. Like, it has totally changed their lifestyle. And that to me is worth its weight, to know that that freedom that it's brought him. He gets his childhood back.
That's incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
truly too, because I mean, we're not going to list out everything it helps with, but that is the cool part is you don't truly realize how little things like that keep you from having the freedom like you've talked about. And we all deserve that. So it is cool once you can see that something so small can get you that freedom back and allow you to do more and to take more on in your day and to continue to do the things you love as well, because that's when it really
Yes.
starts to affect your mental health is when you can't do the basic things, when you can't do the things you love. So, yeah, that's amazing.
Right. Yeah. To see
Well,
that improvement in quality of life, it's just awesome.
and so for me, my anxiety, this helped a lot with. And in our pre recording interview, you made a really good analogy about shaking the tree. And earlier in this podcast, you talked about how the machine basically helps to remind our brains that there is other growth paths. So, with that being said, how does someone's brain, before they even come see you, how does it get stuck in this negative loop, like dealing with insomnia or anxiety?
Right. So our nervous system, when it does the same thing over and over, it learns those patterns. So whether it's anxiety, hypervigilance, poor sleep, it just keeps running those patterns automatically. So even when the original threat is not still happening, it's long gone. This is just gently shaking that roadmap. So where those ingrained areas kind of have that gentle nudge to come off of that. So it's giving your brain that nudge that says, hey there's other routes that you can take. And that brain, which is so intelligent, starts to reorganize itself. So it just, I don't even know how to, I hate that I don't know how to explain it because that's what it's doing.
But and that's why it's crazy, because it is something that this whole concept, it seems so simple, but it's so intricate when you really do look into it. And that's why, I mean, honestly, you are the best person I know to explain this to people, because kind of breaking this apart too, it really is. It's like your brain, when you're dealing with anxiety, my brain is used to running in different pathways. And until I came to see you put that machine on, it's like, okay, you're used to running down this really anxious pathway. You still have this way you can go, and it's probably going to serve you better. So it's basically channeling that for your brain. So you're not just going down these negative pathways that create these constant loops of dealing with these problems that we have.
It's breaking the chain in that loop.
Amazing. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
See,
and you don't have to direct it. You don't have to do anything. You don't even have to understand it. Your brain just does the work. And that's the beauty in it.
See, and that's even better. So all of our listeners here, we're getting you to understand all of this. But if you go see Christina, you're going to be like, oh, wow, this is pretty easy, you know?
That's the hard part is it's so complex to explain, but there's not a thing easier.
No, honestly. So would you say, because it kind of reminds me of doing this, it's kind of like doing like a software update or a reboot per se on us as humans. But if we were to compare it as something as a reboot or a software update, how would you describe it? Because two are completely different things.
It's kind of like if we could all run on an iPhone 5. We did it well. It was fine. But once you recognize the clarity and the peace that comes with having an iPhone 16 and all of the different things that are available to you as that, you recognize like, oh, I mean, I was doing okay, but now I'm incredible. It's the difference in that. And I feel like so many of us are just walking around going through the motions and doing what we do, thinking that this is as good as it gets, right? But God came that we would have life and life to the fullest, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically. And so this is bringing a freedom that I never knew was possible.
So yeah, it is truly amazing. And I think the cool thing about it too, on the mental health aspect of it is, a lot of people deal with anxiety, insomnia, a bunch of these things because of maybe something they went through, past trauma that they're dealing with. And personally speaking, it's not fun to dig up that past trauma. It can be really hard. It can be very taxing. Some people can't even get themselves to do it, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, right.
But the cool thing about this is that's not really necessary. So how does this technology allow people to bypass basically having to relive this trauma, but also still being able to heal, not having to open that can of worms again?
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think so many people avoid healing because it just brings about a pain and an intensity, having to relive that trauma. I get that. What's neat is you don't have to do that component, but counselors who are doing talk therapy, behavioral therapy, have said that a client doing microcurrent neurotherapy at the same time, they're seeing expedited results. They're getting that further along in their journey quicker. But it's not something that's necessary. You only share with me what you want to share with me. Like I said, I'm not reading your mail. I don't know the depths of what's going on. So you don't have to bring that part up. This works differently because it's speaking directly to the nervous system. So where that trauma lives. So your body's been holding onto that story long after your mind has tried to move on. So we're not asking you to dig anything up. I'm not having you explain yourself. We're just inviting that nervous system to release what it's been carrying. And you sit there. You can have your eyes closed. You can pray if you want. Your brain itself does the work. The healing happens without rewounding. And that in itself is a gift.
Yeah, I was going to say, knowing that you can help move away or overcome your trauma just sitting there, being hooked up to a machine. I love that idea. I love that concept. And like you said, it really just seeing how it does allow us to rewire our brains to be able to better gain control of our mental health. Another thing that, it's helping with, I think that's incredible. And so how long too is someone hooked up to the machine? How long does this take?
A typical session where it's actually sending impulses is 6 to 15 minutes.
See, and that's nothing. That's so easy.
It's so easy. It's so easy. And some of the cool things too is like, I have a client who came in and she wasn't necessarily expecting much, like most of us walking in a skeptic. She just knew she needed something more and she'd tried all kinds of things. After a few sessions, she picked up her Bible and she texted me and said, "Oh my gosh, I just read a full page and didn't have to use my finger to track the words." She's got eye convergence and isn't able to focus without that. Also deals with anxiety and has since receiving treatment is like, I'm going to restaurants. I'm sitting not concerned about what other people are thinking or saying. I mean, there's a freedom that's come to that too. She said her anxiety has settled in ways she didn't think was possible. Her sleep is now deep and restful again. And the pain that had been constant is finally easing. I didn't come in expecting all of that. I just knew that I needed something more. And it's things like that I'm like, it's incredible. I'm just blown away by how it works and how God is using it.
See, and there was also another patient story you were telling me about too, about a patient you had that had cerebral palsy. And I thought this was cool because I actually have a cousin who deals with cerebral palsy. But when you see physical motor functions improve through these brain resets, what does that tell you about the body's potential to be able to heal?
It's incredible. She had told me that she's active. I mean, the girl's a swimmer. She does laps like crazy, but is in a wheelchair. And she said that she wasn't able to cross her legs without using her arm to lift her leg up and over. And she's like, "Look what I can do." And showed me as she lifted her leg and did it on her own. And she's like, my brain, like God is restoring all of the years of it not working to now I'm able to do those things. And by no means do I sell this as like a miracle cure. And like you said, it takes sessions, it takes time, it takes investment. But it's incredible to know that it's even possible.
Without a shadow of a doubt. The other question I had for you too is just with your background, combining your nursing skills along with what you're doing here, do you think that you're truly, because I mean, you mentioned using all of your skills kind of in one area. Do you truly think you are using all of your knowledge through the Divine Interruptions?
I mean, the psychology background helps me to understand the nervous system. Biology helps ground me in the science. The biblical studies obviously anchors me in the word and why it all matters. And nursing is just the foundation of how I care for people. So I'm pulling from every single one of those things every single session.
And it shows. That's why I left my session. I'm not kidding. Even like slightly trauma dumping to Christina, just because that was the thing is like that's the thing. You don't have to trauma dump.
No.
I know it's hard for people, but Christina makes it such an open and safe space where it feels okay. Like I'm not kidding. I felt so good leaving. It was honestly, truly, like I said, really remarkable what you're doing.
Thank you. I love it. I love it. I want to be a safe place for people. And that's something that I feel like God has said. I can't tell you how many people have sat in this chair and had tears rolling down their face and are like, "I'm sorry, I'm crying." I'm like, no, this is a place of healing. And sometimes Holy Spirit will go to those deep places that we have hurts and hangouts. And even if we don't articulate it, He's healing. He's bringing that cleansing. He's doing a thing. And sometimes it's through tears. So I have a stockpile of Kleenex and I'm happy to take it.
And everybody has their story. And another story that you had shared with me in our pre-recording interview just kind of the patients you've worked with and dealing with prescription dependency. So, with your experience seeing people dealing with prescription dependency, how did this drive your passion for non pharmaceutical options for people?
Really surprised. Several years ago, we suddenly started giving different medications. Typically, we would send a new mama home after a C-section with, 30 pills or whatever after. And
Oh my gosh.
didn't think much of it. It's a major abdominal surgery. And typically if you have a major abdominal surgery, you're not saying, here, take care of this, maintain this life as well as your
Yeah,
own. So what happened
exactly.
apparently was mamas were getting addicted to the point where, you still got a 2-year-old, you got a newborn, dad's got to go back to work, you still got to do the laundry, what's for dinner, somebody's all the things you still have to do. So people were taking the medication as prescribed, but becoming dependent upon it. And it was causing one of the greatest epidemics that we've got even in society today is a drug dependency. And so that awareness really shocked me because I thought, oh my gosh, I'm the one handed them the first bottle. I don't want that. So
Yeah,
knowing that this is something that can break that cycle. If your body thinks I'm in pain, and that pain is the only receptor that you're receiving, if we break that cycle, it can help relieve that pain. So knowing that has just been revolutionary. And I love the idea of, mamas being free to be the mamas that they're created to be and not having to push through.
yeah. And that it's crazy too, just as a society, I think it's only gotten worse, especially too, I talk about with I'm never going to shame mental health medication, but as a society, we're so quick to lean on medication. And I tell people all the time that medication's not a bad thing, but when it becomes a dependency, that's when it starts to be harmful. And it's so hard to dig yourself out of that hole. So having something as little as this that can help with something so small that can really alleviate this for people, another just groundbreaking thing you could take away from it. So, as we're talking about your services, there's probably a lot of people listening that are like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I want to check this out. I do want to be transparent and say, cost can be something that keeps people from wanting to go find services that can help for them. And you do offer kind of a sliding scale for payment. So, yeah, do you want to kind of talk about that and how you can help with that in the financial regard with people that are wanting to come see you?
Absolutely. I never want finances to be something that keeps anyone from being able to receive the healing that God has for them. So if that is a situation that someone is dealing with, I will work with people on a sliding scale so that we can get you what you need and be able to take care of you. Yeah.
Amazing. And then I think the really cool thing about what you do and like the nice touch is you offer prayer to your clients. With that being said, I'm going to ask you two sides of this question. One, how does the mix between spiritual and high tech science, how does that help you really support your clients? And then on the other hand, if you have someone who, maybe they're not at that relationship with God, like they don't want to have kind of the prayer service offered, is that something that is a non negotiable for people?
No, absolutely. I've got clients that are believers and clients that aren't. And I'm going to treat you and love you just the same either way. No, I just feel like the spiritual aspect of things, like we are a spiritual and mental, emotional, spiritual beings. And if we don't treat all of those things, then we're finding that there's not that wholeness. You're not going to come to complete wholeness if you don't treat every aspect of the person. I think today we've got really good at, I'm going to go see my GI doc and they're going to deal with my GI issue. And I'm going to go see this and everybody's parsing out and you're a whole being. I want to take care of all of Alexandria. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so there's twofold to that. So I've got people that don't, and I don't pray with, and that's okay. It doesn't matter to me one way or another. But I also have people that are like, gosh, yes, I've had great feedback from folks saying like, my faith is a part of me, but it's not who I am. And seeing it integrated into a realm like this has been awakening for them and has been really refreshing. I've had good conversations with people about, gosh, I'm drawn more towards a depth of relationship with Christ because of our times together, because knowing he does care about everything. And I don't know, I'm one of those people that typically I'm real quick to like put it at the altar and then be like, take that back. I know you're super busy. And I mean, my problem is just a little bitty one. And I just want to, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
to try to not be God in our own lives and to just really hand it over to him, knowing and
Mhm.
trusting that he actually wants better for us than we do for ourselves, is good. But yeah,
Yeah.
the two come together. I think that it's hard when you come at it from the faith aspect of things of like, I've been praying, I've been hoping, I've been wanting for wholeness, and it's not happened yet. What am I not doing right? And there's there's the whole like, is my faith not enough? Am I not doing something? Like,
Yeah.
it was
Oh,
done at the cross.
100%.
It was done at the cross. Okay. So you can't think your way out of a dysregulated nervous system. And I say this with deep faith and understanding trauma. We can name every trigger. We can journal all that we want. We can do all the things. We can pray and believe, but your nervous system is still sometimes running on an old pattern. And so because of that brain wave is not hearing your pep talk. It's not hearing all of the, you know what I mean? So it's not reading that journal entry, and it's only
Yeah.
responding to the signals that we're giving it. So it's not a failure in faith. That's the biology aspect of things. And so when the faith and the neuroscience are allowed to work
100%.
together, that's where they're reaching those places that neither one can reach alone. So that's what I see happening in this chair. And that's why I can't stop doing this work.
Well, and I love that you say it like that, because I want people to truly understand this as mental health. It comes from how our brain's wired. It's true science. It's nothing, like you said, that sometimes maybe your journal's not working. Maybe the things you normally default on aren't helping you. And it's not because you're crazy. It's not because you're broken. It's how our bodies
No.
work. It's science. Like, we don't have control over all of these things, and it sucks. We want to have that
No.
control, but it's just not realistic. So yes, I'm glad that you
Right.
note that, because yeah, it's not something we give ourselves enough grace for when a lot of us are struggling, I don't think. But
Right.
piggybacking off that, what are people typically going through, experiencing, feeling when they come see you for the first time or exploring divine interruptions?
A lot of us are just, no one is necessarily researching like dysregulated nervous system and its patterns. Like, that's not a search on
Yeah,
Google, We're just
exactly.
walking in. And I know we've highlighted a lot on anxiety and depression, but I think that there's something to be said about like, we get caught in that fight or flight, that everything's kind of tense and ready. And then the other side of it too is people will talk about feeling like, I feel like I'm right here watching me here. Like, I'm disconnected. There's that sense of not being in myself. And there's that protective mechanism that sometimes people will have. So I think that what happens is people are coming in with, whether it's cravings or addictions or difficulty sleeping or any of those things that we've kind of talked about. The nervous system itself, when dysregulated, is just our body that's reaching for something. And whether it's sugar or caffeine, alcohol, or scrolling right now, whatever it is that brings that moment of relief for us, that dopamine hit that we need, those things aren't character flaws. Those are the nervous system asking for help in the only way that it knows how. So I think that when the brain finds a new sense of calm and that genuine experience of urgency, those cravings soften and they forget to want it. I forgot to want Dr. Pepper, which, if you ask my night shift nurses, that's not something Christina normally forget.
So funny. I love it. And just
But
seeing
the
how it
brain is
works in
no
different
longer screaming.
degrees.
Go ahead. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
It's crazy how it works. Like, for everybody, it can work in so many different degrees. That's why I just think it's so cool, because it really is such a personal experience going through this. Amazing. So as we're wrapping up, I want to note, so Christina, her office is in Odessa, Missouri. We actually have, if you go to www.mentalmixology.org, on our local resources to Central Missouri, she is on that page. So feel free to check that out. Yeah, you can connect with her on there. But my last question for you before we finish up is, what is one success story that you have had within this journey that, even just kind of thinking about it, still kind of makes you emotional when you think about just the true transformation that you saw?
Oh gosh, there's so many. There's so many of like, so many clients mine are like coming to mind right now. I think I love, like you said, my friend with CP that is able to move her leg and is feeling a freedom to be out and about and more independent. Let's see. I have one sweet gal who is sort of in that menopausal hormonal shifting that kind of hits us all like a brick wall. And she came in initially just feeling emotionally exhausted and disconnected. She felt like she didn't really belong anywhere and just had this anger and rage that were really like enveloping her. And she said, and I quote, "My rage and my anger are where I've seen the biggest improvement. I'm not quite back to my old self, but I'm getting there. And I believe that God has brought this therapy to me for very reasons. for various reasons. One, very specifically, was for us to meet. Your faith inspires me. And so she is now getting along with her husband and is doing so much better. Just her overall daily countenance, it's hard,
Amazing.
as women, we're rather hormonal, and it's hard when like everything sets you off. And so she's no
Yes.
longer living in that everything sets her off. She's coming at everything from a place of calm. And, the one thing I do want to stress is that like most of us, these chronic patterns that we're talking about, that fight or flight, like it's something that our body has for a reason. So God gave us the innate ability that if you see a bear, you react, right? So those are good things. If I put my hand on a hot stove, I need to react. I need to pull my hand off. Those are things that served us
Yes.
for a purpose in the time that it served us. So please don't think you're broken or that something's wrong. You know what I mean? That's one thing that like
Yeah.
nothing's wrong. It served its purpose for the time.
Exactly.
But now it's time for freedom. Let's break out of it. Let's live a whole new level of life that you haven't known before. That's kind of what I'm seeing in clients. And it is funny too,
Yeah,
because I've got another
100%.
client that she's like, my husband will say, it's time to go see Christina. Instead of saying like, hey, you need to, like it stops the fight. It's time to go. You need to go see Christina.
That's a very nice way to put it, though. Yeah, honestly. I
Exactly.
love it. And it's cool. And I like how that was the client that you hit on too, because to be honest, I'm not diminishing, any gender and the type of things we all go through because we all have our own battles. But yeah, for women, it's hard. It's like right when you think that you have kind of your mental space figured out, then you go through the menopausal period and you kind of have to reopen the can of worms a little bit sometimes to figure out
Yes.
what's going on. But just knowing that something like this can help with it. I mean, yeah, honestly, I think we have informed the mental mixology listeners tremendously about this new science, this new technology. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on today. Is there anything else that you might want to leave with the mental mixology folks before we wrap up?
I am just so grateful for the opportunity to get this information out there. This is like part of that long line of witnesses that God has promised are going to come based off of things like this where you're able to highlight. And so thank you for allowing me to come. And I love that you participated and aren't just hearing about it, you have experienced it. And so I think that that's very, it helps you to articulate what's kind of hard to articulate.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, and that's the thing. My schedule needs to free up so I can come see you again too, because I can tell I
Anytime,
need
girl.
it.
Anytime. Yes. If people do want to come, I've got the website, www.divineinterruptions.com. I put a lot of love and labor into that so that because part of me wants, as a nurse, I want to know the science behind it. I want to know the research. I want to know. So all of that is on there. The technology's been around for 20 years. Amazing. I forgot to touch on folks with PTSD. There are trauma survivors from wars and PTSD that are walking around right now just unable to function. And there's a clinic in Arizona, I believe, that has partnered with the veterans and tells stories about folks that weren't able to work, weren't able to anything, kind of isolated into their apartment, and now, after receiving treatment, are functioning members of society and are out doing well and have companion dogs and things like that. So that's another area. I know I touch a lot on most people that come to see me are typically women between 35 and 60 that are kind of in that I need to take care of me stage of life. I see men as well. And if you're somebody in your life that is struggling with PTSD or has had a lot of war trauma, this is something that they don't have to relive it. You don't have to talk about. You just experience this and it really does free people.
Amazing. Well, and so if you are looking for the website, I will have that in the show notes. So if you look at the description here, we will have their website below so you can check out what Christina does, connect with her if you want to check out Divine Interruption services. But thank you so much for coming on. It's been a blessing to be able to cross paths in our journeys.
I
So
know.
yeah,
For
thank
me
you
as
for
well.
coming on and educating our audience. So yeah, it's much appreciated. But
Yes. Well,
for
thank you so
everybody,
much. I forgot to say, sorry, I
nope,
forgot
keep
to
going.
say we are also on Facebook and Instagram. So you can follow there. I give little tips and tricks and little, education things and inspiring scriptures and things like that. So
Perfect. Amazing. Well, we will have every way you can get connected with Christina in Divine Interruptions in the show notes so you can get connected with her. She is an amazing person to work with. So, yes, please reach out to her if you're wanting to check out this new resource for your mental health or your overall just wellness and well-being. As we normally kind of wrap up with, if you or anybody you know is in a mental health crisis, please call or text the number 988. Be kind to yourselves, be kind to one another, and we will have more episodes coming out next week.